Time to welcome back my friend. Jim Bottrell is here with the Jim Bottrell Real Estate Team. His website is jimhasthebuyers.com. He gives us incredible information about the market. It's a confusing time. People want to know when the right time is to buy and sell, and the answer is probably right now. What are you waiting for? Jim Bottrell, welcome back to the Inland Empire Answer.
No, glad to be back.
Now, you spoke before when we talked, I think maybe it was last time you were here, about the lawsuit that happened in Missouri that will change the way that we pay for realtor commissions and who pays for realtor commissions moving forward. I think we're getting pretty close to the start date on that. When does that take effect, and how is it going to change things for buyers and for sellers?
Well, okay. Well, first of all, the lawsuit never should have been lost by the
Right.
National Associations of Realtors, but they managed to. I mean, for the Wolf of Wall Street fans, I call this Grenada. It was unlosable, but they managed to. So I think really for people to understand what's going to happen is let me explain first of what's been done, how it's been done for the last 40 years so they can understand what the change actually is. So for the last 40 years, it's been typical, but it's always been optional, that a seller hires a listing agent and then pays them a fee or commission, and which is always the fee's always been negotiable by law, by the way, anyway. That fee, regardless of how much it was what the seller paid the listing agent, and then part of that fee was offered out as what is called a solicitation to the buyer's agents out there, soliciting them to, hey, bring your buyers. So a few things came from this. For the buyer, when they bought their house, they didn't pay their realtor's commission, which is nearly impossible. I mean, it's so expensive to buy a house. You're going to be able to pay the agent too.
Right.
But they didn't have to. So it was great. And then so this meant that the buyer, that buyer has a person, a professional, hopefully, telling them what their rights are, best practices, contingencies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Now, for the seller, the advantage was they get more buyers looking at their home, more offers, more showings, more offers, likely higher selling price. And the sellers ended up in a lot fewer lawsuits because that buyer actually had representation helping them make good decisions. I mean, a buyer and seller lawsuit is almost non-existent for the last 40 years. Very, very rare.
That's pretty incredible. Now, what from that is going to be changing?
Well, there's two big changes happening. One, the seller will no longer be allowed to advertise any type of solicitation on the multiple listing service. Now, that doesn't say they can't offer a solicitation. It just means they're not going to be allowed to offer it on the multiple listing service. And then number two, the buyers are going to be required to have to sign an agreement prior to the agent, any agent showing them any home stating that the buyer understands how the buyer's agent is going to represent them and how they get paid.
Okay, so will these changes, when will they take effect, and how is that going to impact both the buyers and sellers? I think the date's coming up, right?
Yeah, it actually got pushed. It was originally going to be June 1. Now it's August 17th.
Got it.
For sellers, the changes are going to be for sellers. The seller that still wants to open up their home to the entire market, like all the buyers out there, they're still allowed to offer that solicitation to the buyer's agent if they want to in order to bring the highest number of buyers to their home. Remember, more showings, more offers, more money. But they're just not going to be able to do it on the MLS. I do fully expect that we will figure out a workaround. But again, more buyers coming to your home, more offers, higher selling price. For the buyers, they have a few options. And honestly, none of this is really very good for the buyers. But the buyers, they have a few options. One is they can instruct their agent to limit their home searches to only those sellers that are offering the solicitation to the realtor. So that's, just like it always was. That would be the buyer steering themselves. Agents can't steer a buyer, but a buyer can steer their agent. Number two, negotiate a lower sale price with the seller and then pay your agent yourself. But that's still cash out of pocket, and that's no lender participation. So that's tough to do. And then number three, which I think is going to be very common and not great, is approach the listing agent directly and risk not the buyer. Approaching the listing agent directly and not knowing what your rights are, best practices, contingencies, basically buyer beware. One important point to make. It's always been the buyer that has brought 100% of the money to the table that pays for everything. It's just the way it's being done now is going to change. The buyers always paid the commission. It's just now it's just different how it's being done.
Interesting. All right. Well,
and no lender participation.
How about these housing prices? Because everything is pretty expensive. I think we all feel it. Do you see any relief coming?
Unfortunately, no, unless, of course, you're homeowners, then it's fortunately no. The reason the housing prices are up and will continue to climb is that there's very, very limited inventory. There's very few houses for sale. And that's because 82% of the sellers that have loans out there are sitting on an interest rate that starts with a 2, maybe a 3. So very few people are willing to give up their super low interest rate, regardless of whether or not their home fits their needs anymore. So that's causing the super low inventory. The saying, I used to love my home, but now I love my interest rate.
Jim Bottrell is with us. He's the realtor to the stars and the realtor to us here at AM 590. The Answer. You can find him at jimhasthebuyers.com. Jimhasthebuyers.com. Now, when do you think that this stuff is going to change? When are the sellers going to give up that low interest rate? I know it's tempting because people need to make some moves, but that 2% feels pretty good.
Yeah, it really does feel pretty good. The only time they're going to do that is honestly when they felt enough pain. Painfully too many kids in one bedroom, or a house that's painfully empty, or maybe stairs that are too painful to go up and down anymore. The problem is that the interest rates, they only spiked 2 years ago, right? And that's the spike that caused the shortage. So 2 years is simply not enough pain yet. So all that said, I expect that people start to give up those rates voluntarily, probably in another 2 or 3 years. So I think we still have a long ways to go. Mm-hmm. It's good for people who already own homes, and it's really tough for the buyers, especially with these changes that are coming.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like it. It's going to be a rough time.
Yeah, it's awful. I really feel for them.
JimHasTheBuyers.com. And I would also imagine that this interest rate will normalize in another couple of years, right? We'll start to get used to where it is now. Right now, it still feels very shocking. Now, we're seeing more and more of these cash offer buyers all over the media these days. What do you think? And why do you think that is? What do you think of them?
Well, yeah, sellers are, they're seeing these ads everywhere in radio, TV, stuff like this on the station. Things are very different now. Today's seller has a lot of options that sellers in the past didn't have. Today's seller can go through the traditional route where they put their home on the open market, try and get as many buyers as possible, offering, their home so they can run the price up as high as possible. And this is the way it's always been done. But, of course, that does come with the downsides of the retail selling process. The hassle of showing the homes to numerous buyers and agents, possibly open houses, inconveniences, and, of course, the uncertainty as whether or not your house will sell. So all that said, many sellers are simply choosing to go the cash offer route.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you think that people have moved in this direction?
Well, unfortunately, I think society's a lot different now. They're much less social, much more point and click, much more instant.
We don't want to look at people.
Yeah, I know. While I personally don't like any of these changes that I see in society, I do have a business to run. So I realize that as society changes, my company needs to adapt to those changes. And if point and click is what some sellers want, well, I need to be able to provide that. So what I've tried to do is do it better and with a greater sense of both convenience and certainty than the other cash people or people that can bring cash offers. I still bring the advantages of the multiple retail, the multiple offers in the retail situation, but I also do it with cash buyers, and that's kind of what sets us apart. Mm-hmm. I'm literally showing up to a person's door for the very first time, and I bring 4 and many as 8 offers with me that very first time. And some of those offers are the very same companies you see on TV and here even on this radio station. Plus, I bring many others as well.
Very interesting. Now, when you say certainty, what do you mean by that?
Well, redundancy. I was a Marine for a long time. You know that.
I do.
So far, that part of me never leaves, and being a Marine tends to never leave people. So everything that I always grew up with was built on redundancies. If Plan A failed, Plan B and Plan C were already running in the background. Second, price. With multiple investors and buyers, my team is literally arriving at the seller's door with a minimum of 4 offers in hand. So if you want to sell your home, I show up with a bunch of offers, including offers from, again, these cash offer companies that you see on TV and here on the radio, because I have relationships with them. And then on the retail side, I have written guarantees. I outsell the average realtor by more than 100 to 1.
Wow.
So that gives me some serious advantages and opportunities that the average agent simply doesn't have, like these guarantees. For example, I guarantee that my seller will get their agreed upon selling price, or I'll make up the difference myself. And also for the buyers out there, I guarantee that our buyers will love a home that they buy through us or one of my listings, or I'll buy it back. There's obviously reasonable conditions.
That's incredible. JimHasTheBuyers.com. Jim Bottrell, his real estate team at JimHasTheBuyers.com. Now, you mentioned the buyers. What are you doing to help them?
Well, I realize I'm glad you asked. I realize the cash offer platform has advantages out there for the buyers, too. So at any given time, I have literally hundreds of home sellers that we have prepared these cash offers for. So we decided that we would start to introduce those off-market properties to our buyers as well. Mm-hmm. So now our buyers have the opportunity to see the upcoming homes for sale before they actually go for sale. So if they want to make an offer on this home and our seller agrees to it, they can actually buy a house that never hit the market. And that's a huge opportunity for the buyers. And again, that's where my advantage comes in. I'm able to show buyers a pool of homes that'll be coming for sale before they hit the market. again, if the seller is happy with the offer, that is a true win-win that the buyer can buy that house without competition.
Now, let's finish out with a little bit of what's happening right here in California. What do you see happening in the California real estate market specifically?
Well, I'm going to get political on you for a second.
Oh, okay. I like it, though, because I know we agree, so you can do that all you want.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we could go to town. I mean, you've heard my anti-Newsom ad, right?
Yeah, I do.
So what I'm still seeing is I'm seeing a ton of people leaving. So many homeowners are saying that they've just had enough with California. So they're moving out to deep, dark red states. I mean, that's almost 3/4 of my sellers are leaving California. In fact, one of the ones that was really shocking to me is I just helped a person move out of California, and it was simply to get their kids out of California's schools. Listen to this. In this instance, the school made their 11-year-old boy read a book to kindergartners, and the book was named My Shadow is Pink.
Oh, boy.
Now, the cover is a little boy wearing blue, but his shadow is a pink girl wearing a tutu. It's all about gender stuff.
Oh, boy.
Now, yeah, exactly. Now, this 11-year-old voiced his opinion that he did not think it was right that the school made him read this book to kindergartners. So the school's reaction was to declare a, quote, pink out the hate day, where they wanted all the kids to wear pink and essentially shame this 11-year-old boy who didn't want to read the book to kindergartners.
Unreal.
I actually went to the school board meeting after that because this can't really be real, and I watched it, and I could not believe it. So, yes. Get out of California. And then, of course, there's the taxes, the woke policies, the crime, the homelessness, which, by the way, I got a pretty good laugh at Newsom stating just a couple of weeks ago that his homeless policies are the best in the nation and should become the blueprint for the other states to follow. So
what he meant to say is they're the most expensive in the nation, I think, Jim.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Is I guess he forgot to notice, and it does not surprise me that they're unable to account for $20 billion that was supposed to be spent on the homeless problem. And all we seem to have for that missing $20 billion is a larger homeless problem and crime. More crime. And all that said, I honestly don't blame people for leaving the state.
All right. Well, I got to ask this question because I hope that you're going to say never, never, never. But what about you? What about you, Jim Bottrell? When are you leaving the state of California? Are you going to run anytime soon?
Well, you put me on the spot on that one. Trust me, all those people that are leaving, I'm right behind you. We have our sights set on Florida and Tennessee. Ideal world, have a place in both places. However, for us, it's going to be a little bit of time. The issue with my family is we have grandparents that either can't or won't move, and we are the caretakers for them. So we are here in the People's Republic of California until that all, I guess the nicest way of saying it is, until that all works through.
Yeah.
And then, as my wife says, probably 22, maybe 25 minutes after that,
You're done.
We are gone, and we will probably never visit the state again. I'm just so done.
Isn't it so sad? I mean, we live in such a beautiful place.
Really is.
It's been just run into the ground.
It is loaded with the most natural resources, the most beautiful state. It has the best weather. But this is what you get when you have a single-party system.
Yeah.
You have two-thirds. They have a two-thirds majority, and these are all people that are making laws that have never run a business.
Exactly.
That have never made payroll. They've never signed the front of a payroll check, right? So they have no idea. So they make these stupid anti-business policies. They're in bed with the school unions. They're in bed with the environmentalists. I mean, dumb. Yeah. And this used to be my dad left the state years ago, but he's absolutely heartbroken. And he was an LAPD police officer. And not that long ago, I was in LA, which I described it not using the words Los Angeles, but they were all a bunch of expletives, which I can't say on the radio. And I sent him some pictures, and he said, this absolutely breaks my heart. He says, back in the 80s, in the Reagan area, says this is where everybody came. This is a beautiful, thriving
land of
state.
Opportunity. It was.
Yes, it was. And to look at what's going on, you've got to be kidding me. And all I can say right now is, to our chosen president, or the one that we're having run, is please do not give up.
Yeah.
Do not give up no matter what they throw at you, because he's absolutely right. He is the one that is standing between them and us.
Absolutely.
He truly is. So please don't give up.
Jim Bottrell,
and
always.
I don't know how you don't give up after everything.
Well, but you try. Jim Bottrell, thanks so much. The Jim Bottrell Real Estate Team doing a great job for buyers, for sellers. JimHasTheBuyers.com. JimHasTheBuyers.com. That's the website. Very easy to remember. JimHasTheBuyers.com. Jim Bottrell, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate always your perspective. JimHasTheBuyers.com. That is Jim Bottrell with the Jim Bottrell Real Estate Team. Check him out, JimHasTheBuyers.com.